On this episode of College Press Box, it was an SEC clinching victory for women's basketball on an emotional senior day. Texas softball dominated in hosting the Longhorn Invitational, and Austin FC's season has finally begun. How will they look? All this and more on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome back to College Press Box. My name is Henry Hipschman, hosting alongside Campbell Choate. Before we get started, we want to remind you that College Press Box is brought to you by Cat Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride to this weekend's game at catmetro.org. This past Sunday, Texas women basketball had the opportunity to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title against Florida. It would also be a heartwarming senior night where Texas honored Shea Holley, Rory Harmon, Taylor Jones, and Aaliyah Moore. Let's take a look at how it all went down. Florida got started off hot, scoring the first couple of baskets, finding a couple open lanes against this Texas defense who were a little sluggish to start, but eventually they did get started. They found the spark with this touchdown pass from Rory Harmon deep to Shea Holley for an easy lay up and in. Texas then carried on, passing to their star Madison Booker, who from the mid-range has been dominant all season. She took that shot and sunk it down through the net. Then Florida struggled all night on the offensive end against this Texas defense. Gave it back to Madison Booker later on, who would use her patience, pull up, drive, take a strong shot off the backboard and finish well. Texas eventually went up 6 points, 18-12. Kyla Oldacre dominant in the paint, using her physicality and strength. Texas then carried away with the game throughout the rest of the contest. It was just more Madison Booker. Here, Rory Harmon showing off her skill, taking the shot, having to collect her own rebound, passing to Booker, getting the ball back, finding Oldacre, who was able to finish things off with an easy bucket. Texas would not go home losers tonight, eventually going up 31-18. Everyone got a piece of the pie in this game. Madison Booker again, another beautiful mid-range shot, 14 points for her on the night. Justice Carlton having a couple of nice baskets as well. Taylor Jones didn't get started hot until the fourth quarter, but eventually Texas was able to pull this win 72-46 and clinch their share of the SEC regular season title, sharing with South Carolina. This Texas squad can't seem to slow down. Our very own Kendall Unger and Giorgy Ruiz covered it all at the Moody Center. Here's what they had to say.
The Texas Longhorns women basketball is making history, not because of their performance, but for packing out their student section 3 games in a row. This past Sunday was senior night for Rory Harmon, Aaliyah Moore, Shea Holley, and Taylor Jones, and the fans and students showed out and packed out Moody Center. This change comes as a new student organization called The Charge is being brought up to increase the engagement and appreciation for Texas women's basketball.
I've been in college basketball for a long time, and so I've seen it when no one really looked at us versus to where we're at now, and I think it's a beautiful thing, and women's basketball is only going to continue to grow, and I'm glad that we are getting the recognition that we finally deserve.
Head coach Vic Schaefer told TSTV he believes that the more students and fans in the crowd, the better his team will do. As the Texas women's basketball prepare for March Madness, they plan on hosting the first and second rounds here in Austin, Texas at the Moody Center. Among high ticketing sales for the Moody Center, this will also provide a chance for the students to show out once again for the Texas women's basketball team. And for TSTV, I'm Giorgy Ruiz.
I'm joined with Joseph Duffey to talk about a great win for Vic Schaefer on his birthday.
Yeah, and what more could you ask for Vic Schaefer, a birthday present unlike any other, a record-breaking crowd, the most they've had for the Texas women's team at the Moody Center. Couldn't ask for more.
And like we said, 10K for 10K, coin flip, trophy presentation, and senior night all in one game. But how did Texas jump ahead of Florida and make sure they never looked back against the Gators?
Well, Campbell, as winners of now 13 straight, Texas's suffocating defense against the Gators was their greatest strength, in my opinion, forcing 23 turnovers and scoring off 21 points of them. The defense allowed Texas to close the first quarter on a 15-0 run and also held the Gators to only 8 points in the second quarter. This is the dominance that we've come to expect from Texas as they held Florida to their lowest scoring total of the season of 42, which was 30 below their season scoring average. By now, we all realized that it was senior day, but it was also Vic Schaefer's birthday, as you've noticed. And what better gift could he ask for than for another record-breaking crowd for his team that motivated his squad to a 76-42 victory, a total team effort. The fact that on any given night there could be a different player of the game is what stands out for me against Florida. The player of the game had to be Kyla Oldacre, who had 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 dimes. The transfer has had a sneaky good role in the roster, providing front court depth, and this marks her second game with 18-plus in her past 5 games. She also finished with a team-leading 30-plus minus. Madison Booker also had 14, while Angelenka Wenentanda had 14. Once again, a balanced team effort is how Texas got it done and clinched a share of the conference title.
Yeah, many Texas fans were aware of the circumstances of a tied conference record between South Carolina and Texas coming into Sunday's match. And unfortunately for the Longhorns, they were drawn to have this number 2 seed in the SEC tournament. But how can Texas still win the SEC tournament?
Yeah, Campbell, it's insane to me that in 2025, a coin flip decided tournament seedings. You think that they could rely on different tiebreakers such as home record or point differential. But here Texas is as the number 1 team in the country and second seed in their own conference. Texas clearly has as good of a chance as any of the top dogs in the SEC, and to win, they must emphasize that physical brand of defense that has won them so many games this season. After yesterday, Texas has officially held opponents to single digits in a quarter 22 different times. Additionally, the Longhorns held Florida to under 40% from 3 yesterday. You know what their record is in games when that happens? A perfect 18-0. This team has proven that offense will do its part, and if the defense does its part, this team is almost unbeatable.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of that coin flip, I know the birthday boy had a little bit to say about that, but finally we mentioned previously that it was senior night. What will you remember most from a departing senior from this team?
Yeah, for me, I mean, there's not many more inspiring stories than that of Rory Harmon. You talk about a fan favorite that played her heart out every single game that she competed on the hardwood. The Houston native, of course, was a 5-star recruit and has been a defensive anchor for Texas throughout her tenure. Her unfortunate injuries, of course, had come at inopportune times, and yet you can always see her smiling and radiating positive energy. And I believe that we all can learn something from her. Her scoring numbers and efficiency may not be the same, but she gladly doesn't have to have the same role that she had in years past. Her career has stretched from being an all-Big 12 player to being the veteran heart and soul of this team. Rory Harmon is so deserving of getting her flowers after this all-time Texas season. After all she's been through, and her legacy will be remembered fondly on the 40 acres.
Yeah, sure will. I bet you didn't know this. Me and Rory Harmon actually were in a group project.
Oh, wow.
Last semester. Yeah. She's a lot of fun to have in class and also to watch on the court. But thank you for joining us again, Joseph.
Absolutely.
Texas softball also hosted the Longhorn Invitational this past weekend, ultimately remaining undefeated at home. Grabiel Silva covered an eventful Friday night at McCombs Field.
For the first time in almost 2 weeks, Texas softball was back in McCombs for the Longhorn Invitational, looking to build upon their win streak after suffering their first loss of the season last weekend against Stanford in Arizona.
Coach Mike White and his girls were looking to start off the weekend with a win. Coach White sent in senior pitcher Mac Morgan in the circle to start off the tournament, but she ran into trouble early after giving up a home run to Caris Pierce in the second inning. After giving up another hit, Morgan was able to escape out of the inning after a nifty 5-3-6 double play from the Longhorn defense. After Victoria Hunter tied the game with a sac fly in the bottom of the second inning, Morgan yet again started to run into trouble by giving up soft contact, which allowed 2 more runs to score, and Morgan only recorded 1 out in the top of the third inning. Coach White made the move to the bullpen and brought in junior pitcher Citlali Gutierrez, but she wasn't able to slow down the Bulls as they pushed across 2 more runs to make it 5-1 in the third inning. Ashton Maloney's infield single that was upheld provided the spark that Texas needed to begin their comeback. Caden Henry followed with an infield single, and Reese Atwood was hit by a pitch to set up Katie Stewart's 2-run single into left field, which was then followed by Jolie Mitchell's single to third to bring the Longhorns back to within a run heading into the 4th inning at McCombs Field. The action would die down for a few innings, but in the 6th, Texas would finally strike again thanks to a walk, 2 straight hits, and another walk to tie the game, which led to Reese Atwood's 2 RBI single to break open the lead for the Horns in the 6th. Jolie Mitchell then followed up with a single to right to give the Horns some insurance as they headed to the top of the 7th, leading 9-5. In the top of the 7th inning, Gutierrez was able to close out the game when she got a soft pop fly to short, and Leanne Good camped under it to secure the final out of the game. The Longhorns took game 1 of the doubleheader 9-5.
After a hard-fought game against USF, Texas then turned their attention to Abilene Christian, looking to go 2-0 on the day.
Longhorn fans and even Reese Atwood's pet kangaroo Betty Rue were eager for the next game to start. Coach White decided to send in freshman pitcher Cambria Salmon in the circle for the second game, but she ran into some trouble early in the second inning when ACU designated player Chase Muller hit a double to left center that hit off of Caden Henry's glove, and that led to Isabel Martinez punching one out to left center to score the first run of the game for the Wildcats. In the bottom of the inning, Jolie Mitchell pulled one just fair in left field to bring Leanne Good in as the tying run for the Horns. Fast forward to the bottom of the fifth, where Katie Stewart came up with the bases loaded, and she laced the double all the way to the wall in left center to bring in 3 runs and give Texas their first lead of the game. Leanne Good stepped up to the plate and drove in Stewart later in the inning with a towering sacrifice fly to center field. And then in the next at-bat, Katie Simmons was oh so close to hitting a home run, but settled for a double off the wall to put runners at second and third with one out. Then Katie Bennett grounded out, but not before driving in the runner from third that was upheld after review to make it 6-1 Texas in the 5th inning. In the bottom of the 6th, Texas was looking for the run rule victory, and they got just that when Shailene Brister came in as a pinch hitter with the bases loaded, and she drove in 2 runs to put Texas up 9-1. The softball team's return to McCombs went well for them on Friday as they moved to 17-1 on the year.
Texas was able to sweep Friday's contest, and they will look towards continuing their winning streak in the Longhorn Invitational on Saturday against New Mexico State and Sunday against USF and Alabama A&M. That's all for today from McCombs Field. For TSTV Sports, I'm Grabiel Silva.
Great stuff, Grabiel. When College Press Box returns, Texas baseball just competed in Sin City at the Las Vegas Classic. We'll break down how they fared when we come back.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Texas baseball has been scorching since their shocking opening week loss in Arlington against Louisville, as the Longhorns have rattled off 9 straight wins after competing in the Las Vegas Classic. I'm alongside Grabiel Silva, who's here to talk about an electric weekend in Vegas. How you doing, Grabiel?
I'm doing great, Henry. You know, the weather got warmer this past week, but it seemed like the Texas offense turned up the heat even more in the desert.
So, give us a rundown. How did Texas do at the Las Vegas Classic?
Yeah, Henry, after taking down Dartmouth and Incarnate Word during their last stretch of home games, Texas flew out to Las Vegas to play in their second Classic/Showdown of the season. This time it was a round-robin format, as there were 3 other teams instead of the 6 they had in Arlington. Texas was looking to be crowned champions yet again after winning the title in the Shriners Children's Classic in Arlington to start the year. Texas started off their weekend Friday night as they took on the Washington Huskies, who last year, if you don't recall, came into Austin during a very wet weekend, and they won 2 out of 3 against Texas in that series. That set the stage for Texas to be looking for some revenge against the Huskies in Vegas. The game got off to a slow start with Texas leading 2-1 heading into the 6th inning thanks to 2 Jalen Flores homers. Then all of a sudden the Horns exploded for 6 runs in the bottom of the 6th thanks to RBIs from Kimball Schuessler and Cole Chamberlain to make it 6-1. Then with 2 outs, Rylan Galvan stepped up to the plate and launched a 3-run home run to suddenly give the Longhorns a 9-1 lead with a couple innings to go. It looked like Texas would run away with this one, but a grand slam in the top of the 7th put Washington right back into the game, and they wouldn't stop there as they would end up putting up a 6th spot of their own just a half inning after Texas did it themselves. Luckily for Texas, they were able to keep Washington at bay, and they won the game 10-9, but it sure didn't come without any stress. Now, after a nail-biter on Friday, Texas turned their attention to former Big 12 rival Texas Tech. Of course, as old rivals, there were already pre-game tensions between the squads. In the build-up to the tournament, Texas Tech catcher Dylan Maxey fired a few shots at the Longhorns, saying, "I think all of us are super excited," he told reporters. "We're going to be kind of with the mentality that if we don't run rule them, then we lost." Well, unfortunately for Maxey, the only team that was in consideration for a run rule was his own.
In the second inning, Texas scored 7 runs thanks to a 2-run double from Galvan and a 3-run home run from Arizona State transfer Ethan Mendoza, which was followed by Will Gasparino's solo shot to cap off the inning. Texas added more runs in the top of the 5th as they extended their lead to 10-0. Texas starter Luke Harrison went 5 innings and only gave up 1 run on 6 hits and left the game with a 10-1 lead before turning it over to the bullpen. Texas' bullpen did give up some runs, and the offense didn't score anymore after the 5th inning, but the 10 they did score was enough for the Longhorns to pick up the win and move to 2-0 on the weekend. And then on Sunday, Texas took on last year's Big Ten regular season champion, Illinois, and the Longhorns were looking to move to 3-0 on the weekend. Unlike the first 2 games, though, Henry, Texas found themselves in a hole in the 4th inning as they were down 6-1 after starter Cade Bean couldn't finish the 4th after giving up 3 runs, and then Max Grubbs came in and gave up 2 more that same inning. Texas would respond quickly after they fell down 6-1, and in the bottom of the 4th, they would get 4 straight hits and score 4 runs to bring themselves within 1. Then in the 6th, Texas suddenly exploded for 9 runs and sent 14 hitters to the plate. After that explosive inning, Texas was able to finish the game off with a solid 15-6 win thanks to 14 unanswered runs for the Longhorns. For the Longhorns offense that looked to be scorching hot out there in Vegas.
That was a lot to unpack. Indeed, an exciting weekend it was. What were the keys to the 3 wins in Vegas?
Well, Henry, as I mentioned earlier, the offense was on fire. They won all 3 games by a combined score 35-20. The offense did exactly what they needed in order to sweep the weekend. Max Ballou was on fire all weekend long, and that led to him being named tournament MVP. And we also finally saw a breakthrough from experienced shortstop Jalen Flores, who had a multi-home run game on Friday night against the Huskies. One thing that might be a concern for the Longhorns is the bullpen. Friday, we saw Jared Spencer doing Jared Spencer things by going 6 innings and only giving up 1 run. But in the last 3 innings, the Longhorns bullpen would give up 8 runs. Cody Howard gave up 6, then Ruger Riojas gave up 1, and then Thomas Burns gave up 2 to let Washington crawl back into the game. Like I mentioned earlier, Luke Harrison went 5 innings and gave up 1 run, and then Drew Rarick gave up 2 runs, and Dylan Volantis gave up 2 runs as well. Then on Sunday, starter Cade Bean couldn't get through the 4th after giving up 4 runs. So it seems like pitching coach Max Wiener still has some work to do with the number 3 starter and the bullpen. Luckily for Texas, the offense has proven that they can score runs to give them some cushion, but I don't think that is something that coach Jim Schlossnagle would want the team to rely on as the season progresses into conference play.
That's definitely something we're going to have to keep an eye on as the season progresses. What is in store for the baseball team as they move forward?
Well, after an explosive weekend in Vegas, Texas returns to Dish Falk Field for 5 straight games to take on Texas A&M Corpus Christi Tuesday night and Santa Clara for a 3-game weekend series, and then UT Arlington next Tuesday, before starting SEC play against Mississippi State in Starkville in about 2 weeks. There are still some things for this Texas team to still figure out, like the aforementioned bullpen struggles, but the offense has been on a heater lately, and Texas is currently riding a 9-game win streak, and they were 1 out away from winning the season opener, and if they won that one, we could be looking at an undefeated Texas baseball team to start the year. I don't know many people who would have thought that Texas would look like the best team in Texas at this point, given the preseason hype that was surrounding the Texas A&M Aggies, who ran into a wall this past week, and it doesn't look like Texas is slowing down either. This team could easily have 1 loss heading into Starkville, and that can give them enough confidence to try and survive a daunting SEC schedule that they have to go through. This baseball team has shown a lot of upside, and they look to be one of the top teams in the nation if they can continue this hot streak into conference play.
There is certainly nothing like SEC baseball. Thanks for joining us, Grabiel. When College Press Box returns, we'll talk about Austin FC after their first 2 matches of the MLS season with Nolan Clay. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to College Press Box. The Verde and Black have returned on the pitch and have received mixed reviews, especially after a tough loss against the Portland Timbers. Now with a new coach calling the shots, how will Austin FC look this season? I'm with Nolan Clay. Thanks for coming back with us, Nolan.
Thanks for having me. It's a new era for Austin FC, so I'm very excited to talk about just the start of the season.
Yeah, there are a lot of new faces at the football club. But first, I want to start with the players. Which do you think will have the most impact on the team?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer because over the last 2 transfer windows, Austin FC has brought in 8 new players, and while they brought in quality across all parts of the pitch, they did the most damage on the attacking side of the ball. Starting off, I want to talk about Osman Bukhari, the Ghanaian winger that Austin FC signed last summer. Simply put, Osman Bukhari brings speed, and more speed. When playing for Serbian club Red Star Belgrade, Bukhari was clocked as one of the 10 fastest players in the Champions League. Yes, you heard that right. He's played in the Champions League. Not only has he played in it, he's scored in a fixture against Man City at their ground. Oh, and he also scored in the World Cup against Portugal. No big deal though. He didn't get off to the start he wanted at the club last season, but Bukhari is a big-time player who has now had a full offseason to get acclimated, and I expect great things for him this year. Next, I want to move on to Brandon Vasquez, the U.S. international striker signed from Rayados, whose transfer fee broke Bukhari's club record. Vasquez is the number 9 Austin fans have been waiting for. After years of being in striker turmoil, Vasquez is the best they've had by a mile. Vasquez did not have the best of stints in Monterrey, but Austin FC are begging on him being the player he was 2 years ago at Cincinnati. In 2022, Vasquez had 19 goals and 8 assists in all competitions, while in 2023, he still managed to net 17 goals. That's output Austin FC has only ever seen once in an MVP caliber season from Sebastian Driussi, who's no longer on the team. The Verde and Black need someone who can score goals in bunches, and they hope Vasquez is their guy. Lastly, Austin brought in another striker in the winter. Albanian international Mirto Uzuni was brought in from Granada for $12.3 million, again breaking the club record transfer fee. Uzuni is another player for Austin who can score goals in bunches. Over the past 3 seasons, across Spain's first and second divisions, Uzuni has netted 48 goals. You might be wondering how Vasquez and Uzuni will fit together as they play the same position, but with the formation Austin FC is playing this year, I don't think it will be much of an issue. With the money Austin FC has spent on their attack, this squad should be one of the most exciting teams to watch in the MLS.
Now, speaking of some new faces in town, after last season, Austin FC sacked their manager Josh Wolf and brought in new manager Nico Estevez. What do you think about Estevez and what can he bring to the football club?
Yeah, well, funny enough, Nico Estevez was just in charge of FC Dallas, one of Austin's biggest rivals. However, it isn't quite another Jim Schlossnagle situation. Estevez was actually sacked mid-season last year by FC Dallas following a horrible start to their campaign. However, his record in Dallas is not all bad, as he made the playoffs in his previous 2 seasons at the club, something Austin FC has only done once in their first 4 years of the club's existence. So tactically, what does he bring to the table? The thing that pops out to most to me about his teams is their defensive stability. In the 2 seasons Estevez made the playoffs with FC Dallas, his teams finished 3rd in goals allowed. Diving deeper, in those 68 games played over those 2 seasons, FC Dallas only allowed 70 goals over 68 games. That's an outstanding record. That's an outstanding defensive record in a league like the MLS. The downside to a system? Well, let's just say FC Dallas hasn't exactly lit up the score sheet under Estevez. In both seasons they made the playoffs, FC Dallas finished in the bottom half of the league in expected goals and goals scored. In a nutshell, Nico Estevez has given up a lot of attacking freedom in favor of defensive stability. So what does this mean for Austin? Well, under Josh Wolf last season, the Verde and Blacks conceded the 12th fewest goals in the league and scored the 5th fewest goals in the campaign. So building off of last season, Austin FC should have one of the best defenses in the league, especially with new signings Mikael Dessler and Alexander Sivotok. However, the offensive numbers are concerning, and like I just said, Nico Estevez isn't exactly an attacking mastermind. But there is hope for Austin FC fans because with the amount of quality on the front line, Austin FC should be able to generate enough output to win a lot of games. It'll be interesting to see what impact Nico Estevez's philosophy has on the squad and whether he may change his style a little to adapt to the new team he has.
Yeah, and Austin FC has already kicked off their season playing 2 games already. What have you seen so far from the team?
Yeah, as you said, Austin FC has played 2 games in the campaign, and they split the 2 contests, winning 1-0 at home against Sporting Kansas City last week, and losing 1-0 to the Portland Timbers away from home on Saturday. So far, Austin FC is lining up in about a 4-4-2 formation. I like this a lot because it does two things. It keeps a compact shape off the ball, making it tough for teams to play between the lines, and it means you have two strikers pressing, adding pressure to the opposing team's back line at all times. So far it's working, as Austin FC has only conceded 1 goal through 2 games, allowing their opponents to only 14 shots and 4 shots on target. I was also in attendance for their game against Sporting Kansas City, and you could see how well drilled their press was. Every time a green shirt lost the ball, 2 or 3 green shirts surrounded the opposing player, leading to a lot of turnovers in dangerous areas. However, the team scoring only 1 goal through 2 games is concerning, especially when considering the past history of Nico Estevez-led teams. So far, Austin FC is not creating enough chances, as they only registered 1.67 expected goals through the first 2 games. However, I do believe brighter days are ahead for the attack. Watching the 2 games, I've noticed how many good positions the Austin wingers are getting into, and eventually guys like Hader Obrian and Osman Bukhari are going to start beating their fullback consistently, creating chances for the 2 star strikers up front. Overall, I think the team is coming together nicely, and there's a lot to be excited about. It may take a few weeks for all the new guys to gel with each other, but once they do, I think the Verde and Black could be contenders in the Western Conference.
Thank you again for joining us, Nolan. We don't get to talk about Austin FC a lot here, but when we return to College Press Box, we'll take a look at this past week in Longhorn sports and see what's ahead. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to College Press Box. Let's take a look at this past week in Longhorn sports. Texas men's basketball suffered a devastating blowout loss to Georgia on Saturday, falling to the conference opponent 83-67. With this loss, Texas's March Madness projections have shifted, going from one of the last teams in to one of the first 4 out. Texas has 2 games remaining on the schedule, including Mississippi State tomorrow and Oklahoma on Saturday for the last regular season game of the year.
Number 14, beach volleyball went undefeated in the Longhorn Invitational, adding 4 wins to their now 9-0 record. Longhorns beat Coastal Carolina and Tulane on Friday, winning 5-0 and 3-2. Texas tacked on 2 more wins on Saturday, beating SFA 4-1 and Texas A&M Corpus Christi 3-2. The pairs Chloe Charles and Evelisa Kivnonen, as well as Madison Parmelli and Karen Zolona-Chikova, remain undefeated in the 2025 season. The Longhorns head to TCU this weekend to play the Horned Frogs, Florida State, Florida Atlantic, in Boise State.
Now moving on to women's tennis. Number 11 women's tennis swept number 7 the Arkansas 4-0 on Sunday. Ariana Enizagotsky Pursue won a singles match along with a dominating doubles effort with Ashton Bowers. The team will travel to Gainesville to face Florida in the Longhorns' first ever SEC road match this Friday. Now let's take a look at this week in Longhorn sports. On Wednesday, you have softball taking on Baylor at 6 p.m. on SEC Network Plus. On Friday, women's basketball takes on their quarterfinal opponent in the SEC tournament. That will be on the SEC Network at 5 p.m. Baseball takes on Santa Clara at 6:30 p.m. on SEC Network Plus on the same day. On Saturday, more baseball against Santa Clara at 2 p.m. on SEC Network Plus, and then men's basketball versus Oklahoma at 7 p.m. on SEC Network. On Sunday, baseball rounds out their series against Santa Clara at 1 p.m. on SEC Network Plus, and Monday, the conclusion of the Ohio State tournament, softball at Ohio State at 3 p.m. on the Big Ten Network.
And that will conclude this week's edition of College Press Box. Please make sure to tune into our other sports shows this week, including College Crossfire Wednesdays airing at 9 p.m. and the 1-0 Sports shows on Friday at 11 a.m. Also, we invite you to follow our coverage on Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube at the handle TSTV Sports. Thank you to our analysts, everyone in Master Control, our executive producer Joseph Duffey, and all of our reporters in TSTV Sports. I'm Campbell Choate. He's Henry Hipschman. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.